Welcome, everyone. I'm Mike Danaher, an Assistant Attorney General with the New York State Attorney General's office. My office is in Binghamton. The Binghamton office covers the Tompkins County region, as well as far west as Chemung County, as far east as Delaware and Otsego County, and as far north as Schuyler, Tompkins, and let's see, Otsego, Shenango. No, Schuyler and Tompkins are the two most north. Cortland is in our Syracuse region. My job, many people know because we've been doing this a really, really long time here, is as an affirmative attorney with the New York State Attorney General's office, which means I prosecute affirmative cases that the Attorney General brings, those occurring within our region. It could be a whole host of topics. It could be civil rights, it could be labor, it could be anything. Primarily, just by the nature of the beast, is many of the cases are consumer fraud related cases. As part of our duties in the Attorney General's office, we like to go out and talk to people and let people know what's going on out there. It makes our job a lot easier if people know what's happening. They can then spread it on to their friends and the people they know. It not only makes our job easier, but it makes our job a little less frustrating, because I will say that it is very difficult to get people's money back after they've been victimized by a scam, especially just the outright flat scam where somebody's calling asking for money and you send out money. And one, it's very hard to find them, and usually they're not anywhere near here. They're in some other country with a body of water or two in between. So the best thing is to be knowledgeable about these topics so that you don't fall victim to those. And as we get into our stories here, you'll find that it is not hard to be victimized by a fraud or a scam. So being vigilant is probably the most important thing. I start out this by saying, I know it will never happen to you, but let me give you some information. According to the Federal Trade Commission, which is the national governmental agency that handles frauds and scams, as compared to the state level, which is our office, the Attorney General's office, they reported that last year, now that we're in 2020, the year before last, but we don't have statistics from 2019 yet. From 2018, $1.48 billion was lost to fraud, which was a 38% increase from 2017. Now, if I'm running a business and I can show that my revenue has increased 38% over the course of a year, that's a pretty good year. And so this seems to be the multiple. It's just happening more and more and more. Now, it is that younger people are reporting the fraud losses, actual lost money to fraud, more frequently. Older people are reporting that the losses that they sustain are significantly more than the losses that the younger people are saying. Could be any number of reasons, but it seems like the dollar amount that actually impacts seniors is greater than it is others. There are many, many, many different frauds that are out there. It happens all the time. It seems like that the scam artists play on what's happening now and will twist that around, turn it into a fraud or a scam. Classic examples are where there might be some tragedy that occurs or some natural disaster that occurs that other people, because we're giving people, we want to help them get through this. It could be a flood. It could be some accident. It could be any number of things. It could be a cancer of a small child or something. It's something that really tears at your heartstrings. That then scam artists could jump in and start playing on your emotions to get you to part from your money. It's kind of a similar thing with all scams, is that them taking their hand and putting it in your pocket. Just in different ways that it gets done. The number one financial fraud that has been occurring for the last 10 years or more is a thing called identity theft. People are having their identity stolen. It's the fraudulent acquisition of personal information. As simple as, well, the first thing that we think of, and I've spoken a lot about this over the years, and I know that it is the number one thing that people think about when I say the term personal information, and that's Social Security numbers. People think that that is. But it's not limited to that. It could be names, addresses, telephone numbers, because it's fraudulent acquisition of your personal information. So it's any information that's personal to you. Credit card numbers, bank account numbers, driver's license numbers, which back in the day used to be our Social Security number. If you hearken back many, many years ago, when I first got my license a gazillion years ago, my Social Security number was my license number. It was great because the Department of Motor Vehicles didn't have to come up with a unique numbering system. There was already this thing out there called the Social Security system, and they could just use that. I remember in college when the teacher would post grades. Well, they wouldn't put, the names of the students in A, B, D, F next to their names. It would be a Social Security number that they would post, and so you could pick out your grade, but you didn't know anybody else's grade. Well, that has changed somewhat. The driver's license now is not our Social Security number. Probably the most recent change within the last couple of years is for those who are on Medicare. Medicare used to always be your Social Security number. That's now all changing, if not already changed, to where there's a unique number separate. And some would say, well, I had that Medicare card for years, and it was always my Social Security number, and it's always easy to remember and everything like that. The reason why I changed? Identity theft. That's the reason why, because we always instruct, never, ever carry your Social Security card around with you. You do not need to carry it around with you. Do not have it with you. But everybody who was on Medicare was carrying around their Social Security card because their Social Security number was on it. And then I believe it was under President Obama, toward the end of his administration, that he had issued an order that the Social Security Administration changed to put their own numbering system on, so that it would on Medicare, so that the number would not be the same as the Social Security number. And that's the way that it's been, because people were stealing Social Security numbers and going out and committing identity theft. There's a lot of other less obvious things that are personal information to us. For example, I had a situation once when my kids were young that I had a question about a medical bill. Something was covered and wasn't covered. So I called my insurance company to ask them about this bill. And they asked me for my name. They asked me for my last four of my Social Security. They asked me for my address, my kid's date of birth, the typical stuff that we would think. Again, all personal information. But they still weren't going to talk to me about this until they asked me and I answered one question. And that question was, many of you can probably guess what it was, is, what's your mother's maiden name? And as soon as I gave them my mother's maiden name, they knew that I was the person who was asking for this. What if somebody else had that information? So anything that's personal to you. Now, in this day and age, with the use of computers and things, we're all going on the computer and we're buying things and we're signing up to be members of certain things, and we can never remember the passwords, and so to recover our password, or rather than recover our password, I think it's now even evolved to where you usually don't recover your password. Usually you just change it, which is good. But even going back to the days when you would recover your password, when you set up the account initially, they asked you these security questions. It could be, what was your favorite color? What city were you born in? What was the name of your first dog? All of these things. Those are all answers to all of those security questions are personal identification information. So what we need to do is we need to do the best that we can to keep our personal information personal to us. Usually the stealing of our identities is someone who will go out and apply for credit in your name. So they'll need that personal information for that. They may invade bank accounts or make unauthorized purchases on credit cards and things in your name. The statistics are that 15%, and I think this is going to go up dramatically, of all frauds are identity theft related. It's the #1 category. 70%, and I think this is going to change. I think these categories are going to flip. 70% of the frauds, identity theft frauds, are from the phone, acquisition information over the phone. 12% on websites and 10% by emails. I think it's going to be more going toward electronic because we're becoming a little more comfortable with electronics and we're more apt to give out information on electronics, but that's where it's coming from. The number of instances, again, are greater with younger people for identity theft. However, the median losses, that means the median in statistics is half the amounts are above this number and half the amounts are below this number. But the median loss for older adults is 3 times greater than it is for younger people. So what we have to do is we have to protect our personal information. Never give out personal information, that stuff we all talked about before, answers to security questions, anything like that, to someone you do not know. I take it a step further. I say you never give out personal identification information to someone who contacts you. Because you don't know who that person is who contacts you. You may think you know who that person is who contacts you, but you don't really know. That text message that you get on your cell phone, that email you get purportedly from your relative, that supposed friend that's called you, left a message or sent you a text message. You don't know them because it may not be who you think it is. So if somebody sends you an email asking for any of those things, including bank account numbers, passwords, PINs, any of that stuff, where you bank, anything like that, anyone who contacts you, you do not give that information to. You are much less likely to be victimized by a fraud or a scam if you give out information to somebody you contact. Why? Because you know who you're contacting. Now, when I say you contacting, that means you look up the number, you call their number, you look up the number for your bank. You don't call the number that was sent to you by email. You don't click on that email. You don't respond because that's replying to someone who contacted you. You look up the number yourself, and you go down to the bank yourself, and say, I got this message, and it said that there was a problem with my account, and they asked me to reply to them. I want to see what is up. You're much less likely to be victimized if you handle it that way. Shred needless paper and documents. Keep other documents that you may have in a secure place, not laying out on the table or where somebody has access to it. I have a great feeling about sending a bill through the shredder after I pay it. You get to put it through the shredder. Paid it, shred it. Anything that has personal information on it, you shred. You don't have to shred everything, but if it has personal information on it, I shred it. They always say that it's an old adage from eons ago that a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. Everybody's heard that phrase. That is especially true here with the use of electronics. Electronics are a great thing. And I'm saying electronics, you may think of computer. Well, I'm thinking of ATM machines, pay at the pump machines, internet use at a cyber cafe, although I don't know if they have many of those anymore now that everybody carries a computer around in their pocket. But using public Wi-Fi, those sorts of things. It's only as strong as the weakest link. And the weakest link, undoubtedly, in this area, are passwords and PINs. You have to be very, very careful about the passwords and PINs that you choose for your accounts. I will give you advice here. I know many of you will not abide by it, but I feel obligated to have to tell you this. One is, don't use the same password over many different sites. You need a different password for every site. And I know those of you here and out there going, oh my gosh, do you know how many of those that I'll have to remember and all that stuff? And my statement to you is, use different passwords for every different item. If you aren't going to do that, at the very least, you must have separate passwords for any financial accounts that you might have. Credit cards, bank accounts, all this. Separate passwords for everyone, because it is the golden key. If somebody gets that password and you've used it over 3 bank accounts, they now have access to 3 bank accounts. Cut your losses. You need to put up what I'll refer to as a firewall. And that firewall is a different, strong password for each one. I have multiple bank accounts, and we have different passwords for each one. So if one gets compromised, we're still okay on the other ones. It's not great, but it's still okay. Yes, question?
So on my computer, when I go to a website, a new website, and I have to create a password, it says, do you want me to, do you want an automatically generated password, and do you want Google to save this? Is it safe to do that?
Okay, the question is automatic generated passwords. I'll throw in another lump in there as well, and that is these password managers. There are companies out there that you have one password and they have all your other passwords, and in essence it gets managed through them. I don't have any experience with them. I'm hearing that they work very well. I'm hearing that they are very robust, that they somehow change all your passwords each time, but they manage them so that they have them. But I can't speak to them because I have not had the experience with them. I'm hearing they're good, but I don't know which ones are good and which ones aren't, and how they work. My best advice to you, and this is kind of a baseline advice for all this stuff, is be a good consumer. So what would a good consumer do in that context? They would investigate to see, what is this passwords manager? What does it do? How reliable is it? What are its security protocols in place before I made the decision? And then if I, as a good consumer, did my due diligence and then made that decision, I'm good with that. We're trying to, in all contexts, advance being a good consumer. Another question.
And also, Google always asks, do you want us to save your data? Like on my Apple computer, then I don't have to reuse it.
Right.
It's that say?
There are browsers or websites themselves that you actually save your password on them, so that you just hit a button and whatever site it is comes up automatically. The problem is where is that stored? Again, being a good consumer, is it stored on your computer, or is it stored at the place that your site is? I would encourage someone not to save passwords on their computer because computers get hacked. So again, being a good consumer, you have to investigate to see where is that being saved. As a general rule, it's just my own personal beliefs, I generally don't save passwords, and it's a little less convenient, but it also serves another purpose, which is it would force me to, at times, recognize that I've been using the same password forever. If I was just clicking a button, I wouldn't think of it, and then I would say, I've had this password for a while now. I think it's about time to change it. And if I'm just automatically doing it, I may not do that. So that's how I leave that up. Let's talk about the passwords themselves.
Can I have one more question?
Okay, one more question.
to follow up with that? So oftentimes when you go to a website, it will say, do you want to sign in with Facebook or Instagram?
Yes.
Is that?
Do you want to sign in with Facebook or Instagram or some other social media site? I really don't have an opinion that way. If you're signing in, I'm not sure mechanically how it works. If you actually are going through Facebook or Instagram or a social media site, and then they're putting you into the place that you want to go, or is it just a way to that the site itself is hooked into Facebook so that if you use yours, you can go directly into them? If that's the way that it's going, you've just given that site your Facebook, Instagram, social media password. And my view is I want less people to know than know. I get those as well. I do not sign on through Facebook or any of the other social media sites. I have my password for that site, and I directly go in that way. Granted, of course, that gives me another password I have to remember. Let's talk about passwords themselves. Passwords are made up of letters, regular letters, capital letters, numbers, and symbols. So we've got 4 different things. In computer site, we may look at it and it looks the same. But in computers, those are 4 different types of symbols. A capital A and a small a are 2 different things. So to be robust in our passwords, they should be as long as you can make them, and they should consist of all 4 of those things: letters, capital, small, numbers, and signs. The more that you do that, and the more that you jumble it up, the more robust your password is. A lot harder to crack. There are actually computer programs out there that are called password crackers, that they go to try to crack passwords. And so if you use words that are in a dictionary or phrases that are in a book, it's possible that somebody can get that password using a password cracker. If, however, you add in symbols and numbers and spaces now and capitals and smalls, it's going to be much harder for even a password cracker to be able to figure that thing out. What they're saying now in the industry is to, rather than use a word with some numbers added in, they're starting to talk about using phrases. Not a book famous phrase, but some phrase that you can come up with. Because that has a whole host of things. It has spaces in there. It has capitals, it has smalls. What I would also suggest to you, there are ways to also make it even more robust. For example, use a symbol in place of a letter or a number in place of a letter. So you have in your head, okay, instead of S's, I'm going to use the number 2. Or instead of an A, I'm going to use the ampersand, which is the A with a circle around it. I'm going to use a 1 instead of an L. I'm going to use a 3 instead of an E. I'm going to, whatever it is, the more you can put it, it allows you to remember it, but still make it pretty robust. The more you do that, the better off you are going to be. The other thing is how do you remember all of these things? I have a very, very cutting edge way of being able to organize passwords and remember passwords. It's groundbreaking, earth-shaking. You know what I do? I write them down on a piece of paper and I put them in a safe place. So I actually have a notebook. I have so many of these things. I have a notebook that has several pages of passwords that, let's face it, those using computers, there's really only a small number of places that you go regularly. There might be your social media, Facebook, Instagram. I'm not an Instagrammer. I have a Twitter. I have Twitter and I have Facebook. And I'm one of those people that my kids detest, which is I'm a lurker. I don't post much, if anything. I just watch everything else that's being posted. But I have those. I have social media accounts that I'll go to relatively frequently. But there might be a website that I went on that I bought something that I used 2 months ago. There is no way I'm going to ever be able to remember that password. So I write it down. So the ones that you use a lot, you're going to remember the passwords because you use them frequently. But for the ones you don't go to, a notebook stored in a locked drawer or put somewhere that doesn't take much to pull it out. I'm always running up in my house and going to my spot and taking the notebook out because I couldn't remember the, I don't have cable anymore, but when I did have cable, the cable password or something like that. Our internet password in our house, the Wi-Fi password, is impossible to remember because we didn't set it ourselves. It was set by our internet provider, and it's like 30 numbers and letters long. So I have this little piece of paper. Everybody in the house knows where the paper is. And they just go and pull it out. A friend is coming over to visit, and they ask, what's the password? I hand them the paper, and they go, well, why? I will tell you, my Wi-Fi's never been hacked. Nobody's going to hack into that. But that's what you do. If you don't, I don't need, because my Wi-Fi password is automatically hooked to my device. That's the one place that my computer is always hooked into. I don't re-enter it. I always get my Wi-Fi. But if somebody were to come over or I got a new device or something, I'm going to have to enter it, and that's just the way that goes. Robust passwords, change them periodically. I'll give you an example. In my office, although my office has gotten a little bit better, that we're able to, our platforms, the different platforms that we have to use, are all tied into the same network. So it's really just, for most purposes, one password. I actually have another thing that I have to have another password to. But those passwords, I have to change every 30 days. Because obviously they don't want our network getting hacked and stuff. So we have to change it. But there are ways to set up passwords that you can change them, but you can have some type of a system to where you can kind of remember what it is. And although it changes by changing a few numbers, letters, symbols, there's a way that you can do it to remember it. And so that's the best thing that that I can tell you. Be careful about what you disclose on social media. Everybody's starting to get caught up in this social media stuff. Like I said, I was just a lurker, but a lot of people are getting caught up. And it's a wonderful thing. I mean, it really is a wonderful thing. It's my son was just talking to my wife the other day about my wife saying that she wants us to travel and stuff. And my son, who has done a fair amount of traveling, said, Mom, you can just open this thing on Instagram, an Instagram account. And then you can just do a hashtag. And it could be, Grand Canyon. And you can get all these pictures of what it's like in the Grand Canyon, or if you want to go to overseas, and it's just a whole huge world out there. From my perspective and my novice access to Twitter and to Facebook, is I have communicated with and have seen pictures and family of friends of mine from the time that I was in high school. 40-some years ago, that I haven't seen in 40-some years. And all of a sudden we find out, hey, there's so-and-so. Oh, there's her grandkids, or wherever. And it's just really neat. But there are things that we need to be careful about, such as a basic. A basic is, if you go on the greatest vacation that you've ever been on, you took the picture and we were with your family and everybody was together. We had the greatest time in the world on a cruise to the Greek islands. Don't post the pictures till after you get back. Because why? If people see your social media account and you're posting pictures, what's that tell them? They're not home. I've heard many stories of people who have had their house burglarized when they were away at a family member's funeral. Because somebody was watching the obituary, they knew where people lived, and they knew the house was going to be empty. So if you're going to the Greek islands, wait till after you get back. I'm sure that all of your friends can wait to see your pictures until you get back. So those kinds of things. Be careful about putting stuff on there, personal information about you that could be used to what we've been talking about, identity theft. So in addition to being protective, protect yourselves, you can also be active in protecting yourselves. Rather than putting up a defense, be proactive. And one of the ways that you can do that is we can all get a free copy of our credit report every year. It's through annualcreditreport.com. It's the 3 credit reporting agencies. I just say annualcreditreport.com because that's the simplest, and most people are used to using computers now and stuff. So, but there you can write to the credit bureaus as well. The credit bureau, 3 major credit reporting agencies: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. They administer annualcreditreport.com. That's the site by all 3. And you can go on there. You can get a free credit report from each of the 3. I would suggest to go on, get one from Experian, wait 4 months, go on and get one from Equifax, and wait 4 months and get one from TransUnion. Then when you wait 4 months, your year has started over again, so that you can then start over. So you can actually get a free copy of your credit report every 4 months. Do it and look at it. See what it says. Make sure that everything on there is yours. Make sure there aren't any outstanding credit cards in your name, that there are outstanding bills on credit that you have that you didn't know anything about. Stay on top of those things. You go a long way toward protecting yourself. So that's kind of identity theft. That's a huge, huge, huge dollar number. There's another group, I'll call them a group of scams out there that seniors do fall victim to, unfortunately more frequently than I'd like to say, but it happens. And those are what I'll group into a heading called imposter scams, where people are posing as someone they are not. They're being imposters. The first one is one that's very frequently heard about now. It's reported in the papers all the time. I have one that I'll talk about in a second. And that is called, it has its own name even. It's called the grandparent scam. It's when people call, hey, Grandma, this is your favorite grandson. And Grandma says, John? Yeah, John. Grandma, I got a problem. I was with some friends, we were going somewhere, we got pulled over, one of the guys had drugs on him, we all got arrested, and I need bail money to get out. It wasn't me, Grandma, and I'm afraid to call my parents. Can you help me out? Can you get me money? You know what I said originally when I first started talking? Oh, it'll never happen to you. There are tons of people in my region that in fact has happened to. The Oneonta Daily Star from January 29th, 2020, so it was a week or two ago. An Otsego County resident, a widow and grandmother, received a call the week before from someone posing to be her grandchild. It was very traumatic. That was Timmy's voice, she said. She was sure that it was her grandson. At 9:46 a.m., a call came through from an unknown caller with no phone number displayed on the screen. At the other end of the phone, it was her grandson, who apparently lived in Vermont. And at first, she was a little confused because he didn't say Grammy, because that was the nickname, Grammy, but he didn't say it. But she was sure that voice sounded just like her grandson. The caller was talking fast. He had borrowed a friend's car, was on his way to the drugstore when he crashed into another car because he was looking down at his phone. Which Grammy should have said, you shouldn't be doing that. But, well, that's another day. 2 people were sent to the hospital and police were threatening to arrest him. So the caller then passed the phone to another person who he claimed to be his lawyer. And the lawyer said that I'm going to do everything to keep Tim or get Tim out of jail. So he asked her to spell her grandson's last name and then asked her to send money for the bail or risk the incident remaining on her grandson's permanent record. I asked why he didn't call Timmy's mother and father, and he said he couldn't get a hold of them. So then the lawyer said, we're going to need $9,000. Now, the woman said that she said, I didn't have $9,000. I only have $3,000. A person said, well, I'm not sure. I'll go check and get back to you. So the man called back claiming to be the lawyer and said that the court wouldn't take $3,000, but they would take $6,500 if she sent it by cash immediately. And I said, this is what she said. I said, my daughter's home right now. You need to call her. That was the best thing that she could have done. Interestingly, the caller called the daughter. And the daughter actually said that it sounded just like her son. But the longer he talked, there sounded to be like a slight accent that the person had. So she asked the person calling what her son's birthday was. Click. He hung up the phone. After she relayed the story, and she was saved from that, but she was ready to do it, she found out that an acquaintance of her fell for the scam and sent $20,000 to the person. So we think it's not going to happen to us. We have to be very, very careful. Never, ever send money to someone who contacts you. Never. It is a scam. It's been a scam. It's going to continue to be a scam. If it's someone that sounds like your grandchild, it's not your grandchild. Say I'll call you back, and you end up calling the grandchild's parent, or you look up the number for your grandchild and you call them. Don't rely on somebody calling you for that. What they are doing now in these types of imposter scams is they're asking people to go out and get cash cards, gift cards, Best Buy, Walmart, Target, CVS, anywhere that sells these, they all sell them now. Now, when I was growing up, it used to be an insult if you would give somebody a gift certificate for a present at Christmas. My mom used to say that it was copping out. Now everybody gets gift cards and everybody wants gift cards. So now the retail stores all have gift cards. And many of them have what are referred to as cash cards. It might be through the Visa network, MasterCard network. It might be through some other network that all it is cash. And how it works is you go to the store, you say, okay, I want to put $50 on this card. They put the $50 on the card. You don't need that card to get the $50. All you need is there's a number that gets scratched off on the back of the card. It's a really long number. It's letters, numbers. Any of you who's been given an Amazon gift card or something, there's these long numbers on the back. There's like 12 or 14, 16 numbers on the back. Whoever has those numbers or letters can cash that card. So what these places will do is say, go to Best Buy, get $5,000 in gift cards. Separate gift cards, $100 gift cards, or $1,000, or whatever it is. And then one, they'll either send me the gift card, or two, when they get you on the phone, peel off the back of it, tell me what those numbers are. As soon as they have those numbers, then they can cash the money. So with the imposter scam, it's that, or go down to Western Union or a cash service. I know there's a cash service at MoneyGram through CVS. You can go down to your bank and have funds wired out. Any one of those ways, they're asking you to send them cash, which then is untraceable. And they can go out and spend. So in this case, it might be go down to Walmart and get $3,000 in gift cards. I know it was Best Buy at one point in time because we had an issue with Best Buy and we had a conversation with Best Buy about, consumers are calling us, seniors calling us saying that they just lost $4,000 and they did it by going down to your store. Aren't you asking them why they're buying $4,000 worth of gift cards? And they're starting to get much better at it. I was just talking to a person yesterday who worked at a bank, used to work at a bank, and they're getting much better at it. I talked to a person the day before who worked at CVS, and they said, we're getting much better at it to where we're saying we're not going to do it. If they don't get a good explanation of to what the money's being used for, they won't do it. So that's how they're asking for it. So anybody's asking you to go down and get that sort of thing, it's a scam. Another imposter scam is the IRS. This is so-and-so from the IRS. You owe money. You're going to get arrested if you don't pay this money. Guess what they say next? Go down to Walmart and get gift cards and call us back, and then so that we can take care of it. It's a scam. Romance scams. Unfortunately, many seniors are falling victim to Walmart to romance scams, and it's they lost their spouse, they're lonely, whatever. They become best friends and fall in love and become engaged over the internet. They met someone, fell in love, they're in another country, and then all of a sudden they start sending them money. You don't fall in love with someone until you meet them personally, face to face. I'll leave it at that. Computer technical services. This is you get an email from Microsoft. We've discovered that there's a virus on your computer and this must be immediately taken care of. You're subject to all kinds of things. Contact us. Click here. Do you think Microsoft is sitting in their offices watching your computer to see if there's a virus or some problem? They are not. The best advice I can get, don't click on anything. Don't call them and then let them have access to your computer so they can fix it remotely. Take your computer, unplug it, put it in the car, and drive to a computer repair store near you. Maybe it's a little less convenient, but I will tell you it is a lot more convenient than what you're going to get caught up with if something like that happens. Don't they're not watching your computer. They're not sending you emails saying that your computer is broken and you need to contact them. Our computer, be up to date with virus, spyware, all that stuff. Get protection. Get that protection. But there are some instances where they get in. And there might be a virus or something installed. I've had that happen to me, and I periodically have to unplug the computer, take it down to the repair shop, and they have to wipe it and clean it and all that stuff. Do it that way. It's just so much simpler to take care of. Persons affiliated with charities who contact you remotely. Be very careful about those sorts of things. Pick who you want to make your donations to. Don't fall victim to the person who calls, please send a child to the circus, send a donation of $50 or $100. Decide who it might be the American Red Cross, it might be the American Cancer Society, it might be a local food bank, whatever it is, pick it ahead of time and make your donations to them. Then you know it's being used. For your information, every charity that is holding funds or raising funds in New York State must be registered with the New York State Attorney General's office. You can actually go online and look up the charity on our website, which is charitiesnys.com. charitiesnys.com. Or for those of you that don't even want to write it down, do whatever Bing, Google, whatever search engine you use, and put in New York State Attorney General's Office Charities Bureau. And that you'll get a link to the charity's website. The charity's website, right on the main page, it has a charity lookup. You can put the name of the charity in there, and it will show you, one, if they're registered in our office. That'll tell you something if they're not. And two, we actually have their financial forms there. You can go on their on the financial forms. The IRS form is called a 990. The 990 form is on there, and you can actually look it up, and you can see how much money they've received in the past year, what it's been used for, whether it's used for overhead expenses, programs, things like that. I would encourage you, decide who you want to make. If you want to make a donation, maybe you want to look them up first before you make the donation to see how your money is going to be used. That's one way to protect yourself. Another big area of scams are sweepstakes and lotteries, where you get notified, congratulations, you won. Turns out that you're a grand finalist. Congratulations. The thing, if you look at the small print on the back, you're probably a grand finalist with 105 million of your closest friends. They may send you fancy publications. They may send you notifications from armored car companies asking you how to deliver your winnings. They may send you a letter purportedly from a bank asking, how do you want your money sent? It is illegal to buy foreign lotteries in New York. So you can't be the winner of, unless you were in Canada and bought a lottery ticket there, you couldn't have bought one if you were in New York. And if, this is the one question you ask yourself if you've been notified, congratulations, you won. The first thing you should ask yourself is, did I ever enter? Some people put blinders on and they're, oh my gosh, I won $10 million. They never ask themselves, did I ever enter that? Be very careful about those. The rule for that would be never send money to receive money. Congratulations, you won. In order to claim your prize, all you have to do is send us $2,433.22. That's for the insurance, taxes, handling fees, whatever. As soon as you send us the money, we will send you your prize winnings. You will never see a dime. Never send money to receive money. My response to them would be, is take it out of my winnings and send me the balance. Oh, we can't do that, sir. Why not? So never send money to receive money. One way that they're doing this in scams is they send you notification that you won in the mail, And then they send to you along with it, I even have one. I have one from Publishers Clearinghouse. I know that we can't see it as well up there, but it's Publishers Clearinghouse, and there's many signals on this that would tell you it's a scam. But people would get it in the mail, and and there is, you say, where's the catch? Where's the money that I have to send? In this particular letter, it says that you have to pay fees of some sort for taxes and stuff. But what they do is they had a separate check, where a separate page that was a check. They had an actual check that they sent with it. They tell you to go down to the bank. Don't cash the check until you talk to our prize specialist. Call this number, and you call the number, they'll tell you, go down to the bank, deposit it. Tomorrow, the money should have cleared, and your bank account, in this case, would be $7,800 higher. And once that's there, you know that it's cleared. And so just take out the $7,800 and send it to us, and then we'll get you the rest of your I think in this case it was $550,000 that you had won. So people will do that. What they don't realize is this is a bad check. Check is bogus. And the $7,800, yes, your account will go up to $7,800 by midnight of the next day, because under the banking rules that they have to allow you to use that money, but they only have to allow you to use that money with the understanding that if it's bad, you have to pay it back. And it's called a provisional credit. So people are going down, they're depositing the checks, they're seeing their accounts that much higher, they think, oh, it's cleared. Oh, I'm an honest person. I'll send out the money to pay the fees and stuff. And they find out a few days later, or a week later, or 2 weeks later, that check you deposited bounced. I want my $7,800 back, the bank says. You said, but you let me take the money. It shows that it was No, it never cleared. Just to give you a quickie on this, there's a whole number of things. One is if somebody looks at this really clearly, they will see that the borders around Publishers Clearinghouse and everything are slightly faded, and it's not clear and crisp like it would normally. I mean, somebody got their hands on Publisher Clearinghouse letterhead at some point and kept scanning it and printing things off. So that wasn't clear. The next thing is that it's a Publishers Clearinghouse winnings, and the check is from Comprehensive Traffic Systems. Why would they? Well, this was a legitimate account at some point in time that somebody got their hands on a check from there, and what they did was that they scanned the check and then just would change the name of the person who it's payable to, and just would send out thousands of these things. I'm sure that Comprehensive Traffic Systems was very upset about all the calls they were getting and stuff. The other thing was that it was Publishers Clearinghouse, and if you looked at the envelope that it came in, it had a postal area from Canada. So there was a whole number of that, plus others were other triggers that would show that it's a scam. But people sometimes don't pay attention to that, so we have to be very careful about those. Yeah, I mean, there are all kinds of things that are out there. Just a few other things, other scams, charitable solicitations in general. Crowdfunding scams. There's a thing called crowdfunding now. A lot of people are raising money through crowdfunding, bringing the people together. You know, a lot of some political campaigns are using crowdfunding to get those $25 donations from people, because it's all of us, and they're doing that in fundraising purpose. There's certain websites you may have heard before: GoFundMe, Kickstarter, Indiegogo. There's a whole bunch of them that are out there, and what people are doing is they're starting their own fundraising campaigns, maybe to help out a disadvantaged person and things like that. They're great. I've contributed to them, but they're things that you have to be careful of, such as make sure you know who the creator of the account is, the one who is managing the account, because that's who, I'll just pick out GoFundMe. That's who GoFundMe is going to send the check to. When all the money gets accumulated, they're going to send it to the creator of that fund. And you better know who that person is, so that you can be confident and trust that they will put it to the purpose for which it was expected. Know that the project is realistic. If it's some crazy harebrained thing, if it doesn't seem realistic that it can be accomplished, that should be a warning sign. And don't let your emotions get the best of you just because the person's sick or you really want to help for this or whatever. Don't let that blind you to not being a reasonable and good consumer. Make sure you check into it. I will give you just a quick story. Quick story is I actually had a case. It was with a GoFundMe fundraiser. It was a horrific story. It was for the family of a kid. I say kid. He was within 2 weeks or 3 weeks of graduating from college. And as one friend of mine said at one point in time, nothing ever ends well that starts with the phrase, "Hey, watch this." He did something, I don't know the particulars of it, but it was just a tragic situation. Good kid. By all accounts, I hadn't met him. One of the people that I work with actually knew the family and knew him. But a good kid. Not a straight A student, not a Division I athlete, but an athlete and a good student, but a good kid. And he did something, I don't know if he jumped off a riverbank or whatever. He ended up drowning. And this poor family, it broke my heart when they came in. Well, an acquaintance of the father, who he worked with, not a friend or anything, but just kind of acquaintance, knew who it was, decided to start a GoFundMe account to raise money for the family. And it turns out that the family was going to start a scholarship fund in their son's name, still going on today. And they award a pretty good scholarship, or 2 or 3 or 4 every year to a good kid. Someone that would be like their son was. And it's emotional even to talk about it and having dealt with this family. And so this acquaintance started GoFundMe to raise some funds. Not a big amount of money. It really wasn't. Several thousand, a few $1,000s, $3,000, $4,000, $5,000. And it was going to be given to the family, and the family was going to use it and put it in the scholarship fund, and they were going to be awarding the scholarships. Well, the family came to our office saying, you know, they raised this money and we followed it on GoFundMe, and based on the amount that GoFundMe said was raised, we didn't get that money. They got a little bit of it, but not all of it, and they came to me. I looked into it, and it turns out that this person, GoFundMe, was very good with us. They disclosed to us who made the donations, and we could see the donations were high school friends of this kid who, you know, it was like $25. These kids were still in college too. Some of the names were recognizable to me because they might have been athletes in our area that I had seen play, and I knew that they had been athletes. And so I knew that these people were friends of his family. They were, rather than donating to the family, they heard about this GoFundMe thing, so they put it into the GoFundMe without doing any research on who the creator was. We ended up having to sue the creator because we got all the information from GoFundMe that said we sent the money to the creator in 3 different checks over like 3-month period of time, and that totaled this amount of money. GoFundMe, the way these things do, they do make money on the deal. That's how they pay their expenses. A certain percentage of it, a small percentage goes toward them. So we took the total amount that was raised. We figured out how much was kept by GoFundMe for the fees and stuff. And that exact amount was sent. But it never went to where it was supposed to go. We ended up suing this woman. We ended up getting a judgment against this woman, and I ended up garnishing her wages and recovered almost all of it. She left her job about $60 short of us being a client. But the other good, happy end to that story is that GoFundMe felt bad about it, and they wrote a check for the amount and also contributed it to the kids' scholarship fund. So they got the money back plus and that was really great. But be aware of, if you participate in one of these things, who is it? Make sure you know who it is so that you don't get ripped off and they don't get ripped off. Investment scams, you're not going to get in the ground floor the next Google. It doesn't work. There's so much knowledge out there by investors and money people. They know what's going on. So you get a call from somebody or an email from somebody saying, this is going to be the next greatest thing to Uber or whatever. the real people in the know would have known about this if that was the case. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. Home improvement scams, we're fast moving into, thank goodness, we're fast moving into the springtime. Be a good consumer. If you're going to have a home improvement job done, don't have it done by somebody who comes knocking on your door wanting to give you a great price for doing your driveway or your roof or whatever. Go out in the community. Get references. Check and see what people in reputable businesses do and who does good work and how much it is. And then choose those people. Pyramid schemes, Nigerian letter. You may have heard about the Nigerian letter. Here's what the Nigerian letter is. With all its fluff and bad English and everything that's in the letter, we've taken tens of millions of dollars out of Nigeria, and we're trying to launder it through your bank account. Now, it's written in other ways, like we had a deceased relative, and they had this money, and we just need to get out of the country, and you can really help us, and for your services, you can have 1/3 of the money, and all. It's not happening. It's not happening. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. This and a whole host of other scams are out there. I'm past my time, so I won't go and indulge you any further. But try and step back. One of the things that scam artists really like you to do is to make the snap decision. If you make the snap decision and don't give yourself time to think about it, you're more likely to be victimized. If somebody wants to steal money from us, they're going to find a way to do it, whether it's even with a gun or a knife. They're going to do it. But what we want to do is, if it's a continuum of you're really going to get scammed to you're never going to get scammed, we want to get as close as we can to this end of the line. We want to reduce the probability that is going to happen. If we take some of the steps that we've talked about here today, if we give ourselves time, if we think about it, if we talk to somebody else about it who may have a little more rational thought process at the time, you would go a long way toward protecting yourself from ever victimizing yourself. If anyone has any questions about these types of scams, I'd be glad to answer them. Other than that, if people have any questions really, or actually if you have a problem as a consumer, you're dealing with a business, and they're not doing what you had agreed to do or whatever, you can actually contact our office. We have staff available who can assist you in filing a complaint with our office where we can't represent individuals. By law, we can't represent the individuals. But we can try to mediate your complaint, meaning sending your complaint to the business with a letter that says we've only heard one side of the story, what's your side of the story, to see if we can get a response from the business, see if that we can ultimately resolve it. We may not be able to, and some people may be obligated, forced to have to, if they really want to pursue it, go to court or do something like that. But we can try to resolve those. Feel free to contact the New York State Attorney General's office. For those of you that quickly have your pen there, if you call our 800 number, it's interesting. That number you can use anywhere in the state. If you call it in Ithaca, it will ring in Binghamton. If you call it in Rochester, it will ring in our Rochester office. So it's where you are located. And we have the 607 area code rings in our office. It's 1-800-771-7755. Or you can look us up. Each of us have our own local numbers too. Very easy to find us. You can go on and do a Google search for the New York State Attorney General's office. You can put in New York State Attorney General's office, Binghamton Regional Office, and our number will come up. And we would try to do what we can to assist you. Other than that, thank you very much for attending, those of you here. Those of you out in TV land, come join us. Come join us. We're here on the second Thursday of every month. We talk about a different topic every month. I don't have in front of me what our topic is next month, but I'm sure it'll be interesting. And come down and join us. I'm here, we're here at 11 a.m. on the second Thursday of the month. And I'm usually here after we get done taping for a while to handle individual questions. If people have a consumer question, I can handle those. But join us, so we'd be glad to have you. So thank you again for attending, and we hope that we will see you next time.